Yes, hello. Basically, what will happen now is that I will start first with a presentation, and afterwards I will take up a few questions, and afterwards I will check up the chat as well. So yes, Jerry, you're welcome. Hello, and hello, Rostiman. So we take a quick presentation first. It was kind of a spontaneous live stream today. I didn't have a plan for it, but I didn't have any made videos, so I just basically decided to make a live stream for today. So, all right. So basically, topic for today is how effective is Finasteride for hair loss. And this again is something that is a question that comes up over and over again, because there is a lot of misconceptions about it. And basically, this live stream today, I want to kind of break it down and tell what we need to know. And this was my situation in 2008, before I started with Finasteride, right? This is how bad my situation was. And as you can see, I had very bald areas, and I had hair loss for around 5 years before I started with Finasteride. So my hair was very thin. They had diffused a lot, and the situation was very bad. So again, this is my crown at that time on hairline and the mid scalp. Basically, see that there was not much hope. I remember my hair as well was very kind of bristle. They fall out easily. They were easy to pull them out at this stage. And my scalp itself was also not feeling that well. I had some dermatitis at that time. I didn't have a scalp inflammation at that time, but I had a dermatitis at that time. So this is kind of a bit different. So basically what happened next is that I started with Finasteride. This is basically a picture of me in like 1 month into Finasteride. There was not much improvements, but there was like a bit stabilization of my hair loss at this stage. So. And this is a picture of me 3 months into Finasteride. Just take a closer look. Again, I felt that what happened that time basically was that my hair loss started to stabilize, and I didn't have any more acne problems. I didn't have any more pimples that were happening. Especially, I remember when I was having, when I was not taking Finasteride, I had a lot of pimples and acne on my shoulders, on my neck area, also my face and the scalp. But those things kind of gradually went away when I started with Finasteride. Right at this stage, I remember it became less and less of them, and I can also basically know nowadays can see that there was some improvements of my hair of taking Finasteride for 3 months. So, this is my situation 4 months into Finasteride. Again, I was not that happy at that time, but my hair loss had stabilized, and now when I see it from a new kind of perspective, I had some visual improvements in my hair as well at this stage. So one more, right? You can clearly see that it is kind of different compared to baseline 4 months earlier, right? Compared to this picture here or this one here, right? So hair itself also looked healthy compared to before. So. All right, and this is basically 6.5, 7 months results of taking Finasteride. And if you have been following my previous videos, I do take the 0.5 on daily basis. So this again is 6, 7 months into it, back in 2009, summer months 2009. And at this time, I was very happy with the results, basically, like because I could finally style my hair, and there was major improvements, right? Again, you can see that there is a lot of thinning, right? A lot of thinning of the hair, a lot of thin areas. But again, compared to where it was previously, I was super happy, right? Because I was basically last case back then, and this was like a huge confidence booster for me. Like I was so happy with the results at this stage. So, all right. And so what happened next? Basically, things keep improving, right? And this is basically 1 year results of Finasteride. You can see that things were kind of, my hairline was V-shaped, but you can see that I had major improvements of blocking DHT at that time, right? Like again, I could even style my hair a bit upwards as well. So at this stage. So. All right, and this is a picture of me around 15 months into. It was summer 2010. Right, this was this one here was December 2009. This was summer 2010, and it basically got more and more improvements as time went by. Right, and also other thing I want to kind of mention is that you can see that I had a bit difference in the hair because what happened is that the seasonal changes also affected my scalp environment, because at that time I didn't know how to address seasonal change, right? Because when the weather changed, it also affected my scalp environment. For example, it could make it in the winter time, it could make it more dry, and it could lead to increased dermatitis. And summer months, it could make it more oily, and it can also lead to dermatitis. And what happens those times basically is that I had increased shedding from it, right? So that's why I had a bit effect on the hair from time to time, because I was not having control of my scalp environment. And this is basically me in peak results of taking Finasteride. This was 2010. Just to zoom in, you can basically see that I was had a very nice recovery from it. This one here. Again, it's a V-shaped because Finasteride is not a growth stimulant. It's just something that will thicken up existing hair. So if you have hair around diffuse patterns, and you can basically fill them up, right? But it won't grow back the hairs that has fallen out. You have to have the minoxidil to do so, right? It won't grow back in those areas, but it will thicken up the hair. So at this time, again, I was very happy with my peak results, because I could finally style my hair the way I wanted to, and they actually looked quite decent for my age as well at that time. So. All right, and this is other peak results. Like basically, it's 1 month later, or a couple of weeks, like 3 weeks later maybe. So again, you can see that it was quite dense, right? Especially compared to where it was from baseline. And again, I was very happy with the results. But the problem was that it didn't last, right? So basically what happened from this stage on is that I got scalp problems. I got scalp inflammation. Basically, my scalp inflammation came from wrong diet, weather change. It also came from because I was overweighted as well, so it didn't help my situation. And my scalp environment was kind of messed up. I was using wrong products on the scalp, and it affected my inflammation. It caused dermatitis. I ended up having full-blown scalp inflammation, right? So basically, this is like a month later from this picture here, right? You can clearly see that I was going downhill with my conditions. Things here are thinning out quite fast. And this is 3 months later, right? Like again, I was taking Finasteride, I was blocking DHT. At this time, I even stepped up to 1 mg, because I was thinking maybe Finasteride was not working anymore, right? And I was thinking that it was losing effectiveness, but it was basically because my scalp was not healthy, right? This would happen. My hair was falling out rapidly. I had a lot of burning sensation on my scalp, a lot of itchiness, a lot of oiliness, like clogged pores, all the things that could go wrong, went wrong with my scalp at this stage. Right? And you can basically see that in a very short time, I went from a happy guy with this here, on this one, to this one here, on this one here. And it basically happened in 3 months period. It happens very fast when there is something wrong on the scalp. So. And this is basically when I decided to cut my hair short, because I could not handle any more pressure of seeing hair fall out everywhere. And I felt that if I had shorter hair, it could be easier to manage them. So it actually did help a bit. And I also started with steroid lotions, steroid creams, and like a 2% version of ketoconazole shampoo. And it did help to stabilize my hair fall. Like this picture here is taken around 1.5 months later compared to this one here. This was around January 2011, and this was around end of February 2011. So it was improvement. So. And here again is other picture. 4 months later, and 2 months on 1.5 month on steroids. on ketoconazole, on finasteride. So basically, I was able to stabilize my hair loss, and you can also see that it started to fill in as well in those areas. So, this is a picture basically of me when I still was on still on the steroids. I was kind of, for about 9 months, I was kind of cycling between them. I was stopping with them, and I was restarting them. And what happened basically, each time my inflammation flared up, I restarted with steroids, and it did kind of help. But also, the downside was that each time I stopped the steroids, my hair loss increased again. But I had increased shedding from it. So it was like ups and down cycles, and I had to basically continue using them because if I stopped using them, I would have a shedding. Right? And this basically it was a stage that was having a lot of ups and downs. Right? But I was kind of able to kind of keep things in right ratios compared to where it was a couple of months ago. But it was a constant struggle. So. And this is basically this is beginning of 2012. This is 2-3 months later. Again, I had issues with the scalp because steroids is not long-term solution, right? And that is something I knew at that time. I knew that this gives me time to find a solution to the problem, but it was not something I could continuously use over time. So, on this stage, I basically decided to find a solution outside steroids on the ketoconazole also, because it was not something I could use forever. So. And this is summer 2012. Right? Again, you can basically see that my hair had improved from the worst stage, but it was still quite thin. Right? It was scalp was continuously itchy. There were scalp problems, and I was not so happy with how things were. So, here's another picture from the couple months later. Again, you can see that I had my hair, but it was not, like I said, not perfect as it was in December or 2 years peak results from Finasteride. This is the end of 2012. Again, you can see basically there was scalp problems again. Right, and this time I tried to address my scalp problems with diet changes, with topical applications, replying scalp conditions, addressing dermatitis and inflammation. So I was doing a bunch of things, but I was, of course, not aware what of those things were actually working, what was not working. Right? So I was doing a dozen things, but I was not able to connect the dots. So I had those ups and downs. Like, for example, when the season changed, it affected my hair loss as well. Right? It affected my scalp conditions and caused increased shedding. So basically, this went on for some time. And this is when I finally started to kind of get understanding what was happening and start to connect the dots. And this is January 2013. This is my situation back then. Again, you can see that there was some improvements, but of course I was never near to the peak results of 2010 when I was taking finasteride and I had best results. And I still was on finasteride, right? But the just basically point is that because of scalp problems, finasteride was not giving optimal effect from it. I was not getting optimal effect from it. So. And this is, I would say, end of February, beginning March 2013. Again, my scalp was having issues because it was weather change. Right? And you can see how thin my hair again had become. And as time went by, basically, this is I would say end of April 2013. And at this stage, I had control over my inflammation. Right? And basically what happened is that it did help ticking up a bit here, but it was nowhere near the peak results of finasteride taking it for the first 2 years. Right? So I was able to kind of get control over the hair loss and stabilize it, but I was not able to get the peak results I had a couple of years back from finasteride alone. And basically, this was a stage I started like a couple of weeks later. I started with minoxidil application, microneedling, and this is what helped me to regrow back areas that I had basically had thinning for many years. And I also want to show you how my scalp looked like at different stages. So this is January 2013 when I finally got the USB microscope, and I did check how my scalp conditions actually were looking. Right? And I would say it was not at the worst, because at the worst it was even worse than this. Right? But I didn't have a USB microscope, so I couldn't check my scalp conditions. But basically what you can see here is that I had a lot of oily skin, a lot of sebum, plugged pores, redness around hair follicle inflammation, buildups. All right, and all those things are not optimal if you want to have results from either from finasteride or also minoxidil, right? Because if the scalp looks like this, it will be very hard to see any regrow. Right? And I did take a picture of my scalp a couple of years later. And basically, difference is that I had a clean scalp, right? And this is a kind of optimal scalp environment we should have if you want to have optimal results. Right? You cannot have this kind of scalp environment like I had in 2013 because it will be very hard to see any new hair regrowth. Right? The scalp has to be clean and healthy, right? Like you can see here. So this is basically my point with the presentation, is that if you want to have awesome results, then every part has to be addressed, right? Your scalp has to be healthy, and you have to address the hair loss from internal factors as well as external factors to get most benefits out of finasteride, right? Because if there is something that is not working, it will make finasteride effectiveness much less, right? It won't be as effective anymore if there is problems in the scalp, and it will basically kind of be wasted of taking it. So. All right, guys, that was a quick presentation. Let's see. So basically, I will quickly take up a few questions on the videos that I have been getting. So first one basically is, hey Alex, what do you think of conditioners? Is it good for short-term thinning hair? Have you tried some? I recommend some. Like, I don't use conditioners. I just do the shampoo. And basically the thing is that as long as you are keeping your scalp and hair healthy and using right shampoo for your hair profile and your skin type, it basically will make it less likely to have a need of conditioner. So I want to apply as little things as possible on my scalp, because any additional product will basically add additional risk to other problems. Next question is about finasteride. Are you still taking 0.5 daily? How do I cut 1 mg by pill cutter or blade? Yes, I take 0.5 and I do cut it with a blade. This is how I do it. Next question is about why don't you use oral minoxidil? And basically the reason is that the oral minoxidil have a different side effect profile. Other thing is that oral minoxidil is that it can affect collagen production, and this is not something I want to risk to happen. That's why I prefer topical minoxidil, because I find it much more safe long-term of applying it on the scalp directly. Next question is about your thoughts about topical finasteride with minoxidil versus just minoxidil alone. Like, again, I would say that if you are doing microneedling, then it's much better to do minoxidil alone, right? Because if you mix together finasteride, then you kind of have a systematical side effects, because it will increase absorption of finasteride, right? So this is something to aware of. That's why I would suggest applying minoxidil alone is much better option. So. All right, next one question is about how long should finasteride shed last? The finasteride shed should be quite short in duration. It should be kind of duration possibly as little as 2 weeks. I would say 2 to 8 weeks at maximum, right? If it's longer than 8 weeks, that basically means that there is something else wrong. Like I showed in the presentation, when I was having scalp problems, finasteride was not effective anymore, right? So you don't want to give shedding more than 8 weeks kind of time window. And if shedding continues after 8 weeks, this basically means that there is more to your hair loss than just DHT angles. How many months it did take me for regrow here? It did take around 12 months, I would say 9 months when I was happy with my hair, and it continued up to 24 months. So it is a process, right? But basically what happens is each month should be better than previous month, right? It should be more and more improvements as each month goes by. So. And that's why it's also important to take pictures, right? Because if you have pictures, it will give you a reference. It will also give you motivations that you are doing the right thing and things are going in the right direction. All right. Next question is about after starting minoxidil, how long should I wait to start with dermaroller? I would say like 2 to 4 weeks, right? Just make sure that the minoxidil is okay and the initial shed has stopped, and then you can start with microneedling. So. Let's see, a few more questions. How can I protect my hair from stress and anxiety? You can take, for example, some antioxidants like acetaminophen, for example, could be helpful with this kind of problem. Next one is, how can I improve blood supply to scalp? Niacin, for example, could be one way to do it. Let's see, next one. How frequently do you use shampoo on a weekly basis? And do you use minoxidil once a day or twice? I use shampoo daily because I do microneedling daily. So I have to use shampoo daily as well to have a clean scalp. And I apply minoxidil once a day. Question about, do you use a little amount of shampoo? Yes, I use about 1 teaspoon each time I wash my scalp. All right, that was a quick order of the questions. Now I'll check up the chat box and see what you have been asking there. All right, so basically the first question is about let's see. Question about where can I get topical finasteride without minoxidil? Minoxidil Max possibly has it. It should be possible to get it there. And they ship it outside the US as well, so you don't have to be US based to get the Finasteride Max. Question about question about results that I was showing in the presentation. Yes, they are basically from finasteride alone. At that time, I was not using applying minoxidil. So. Question about hair regrow. Again, hair regrow, if you want to have hair regrow, you need to have growth stimulant, right? In my case, I use minoxidil and microneedling. But of course, there are other ways to stimulate hair regrowth, but that has been most effective for me. All right. Let's see. Question about been using finasteride for 8 months, but shedding is still continuing. And hair is not growing. Again, that basically means, like in my situation, that you most likely have something else to your hair loss, not just DHT that is causing this problem, right? Because mineralization can happen because of DHT, but it also can happen with scalp problems, and it also can happen because of stress. So there are several reasons why mineralization can happen. So. A comment about the dutasteride works better than finasteride. Yes, again, it did work very well with the dutasteride for me, but I got side effects from it, so I switched it back to finasteride, and I find it kind of more convenient for me. So. Question about do you use finasteride, minoxidil, and microneedling twice a day, right? All those years, non-stop. Yes, for finasteride, I have to use it every day because I have to address DHT on daily basis. But when it comes to microneedling, it's something that I did use a lot of when I was growing my hair. But when I got my regrow, it's not necessary to use it too much anymore, right? And basically nowadays I use it 3 times a week, right? And minoxidil, again, it's something that you can also slow down the cycle when you have reached maximum potential hair regrow, right? It's not like one has to use it all the time, every day when things are improving, because what happens is that you are always stimulate your scalp. Question about did you get unwanted body hair from minoxidil? No, I didn't. Question about when I use egg white mask, do I make it as foam? Yes, I use a fork to kind of mix together before I apply it, because if it's not made of foam, it will basically rinse down the face or the scalp. It won't stick, right? So you have to make it foamy. So. Yeah, correct. No, I don't use a shower cup. I just let it dry naturally. All right, guys. Any more questions before we end today? Yes, I see that Elmar wrote he has a progress with growth and stopping shedding. Congratulations. And you almost regrow all back again. Awesome. This is how things should be. So. All right. Yes, guys. Is there any more questions before we answer them? If there are, just drop them in chat box before I end today's live streams. Question about can I use minoxidil without finasteride? Yes, you can do that. It kind of depends on the problem you're having. What is causing your hair loss in the first place? Is it DHT or is it something else? Let's say, for example, if it's caused by stress, then minoxidil alone will work just fine. Right? If you do have a hair loss that is caused by DHT, then you have to address the DHT angle as well, so, or it won't work. So. Question from Toxie about using egg white mask, egg mask every other day to get less shedding. Yes, it is possible to use it every other day. Again, it's something that can be a bit hassle with if you do it too frequently. But if it's not problems, then yes, I don't see a reason why you shouldn't use it every other day. So it should be possible. Yeah. All right. Is there a big difference between minoxidil and regen? Again, regen is minoxidil, so it is kind of the same, so as long as 5%. So. Of course, there are some variations like foam and liquid, and foam can be more gentle to the scalp than liquid. I personally currently use liquid version, but foam is more gentle. Right? So if you have a scalp problems, then foam is most likely a better option. So. Why did you stop using topical finasteride? Because I can find it taking oral pill more convenient. Is it possible to get hair regrowth from finasteride without minoxidil? Yes, it is. Like I can watch beginning of the presentation where I talk about my results of just taking finasteride and how I was able to thicken up the hair. Right? So it is fully possible, but again, it kind of depends on what is the cause of the hair loss in the first place. Right? Question about what I do if I have dermatitis. First of all, you need to solve it, right? You need to find out what is the cause of dermatitis. Is it your scalp conditions? Is it the internal factors that is causing you're having dermatitis? What kind of dermatitis? Is it dermatitis with flare-ups? Is it dermatitis that is causing, for example, dandruff, flakiness, right? So it kind of different types. Dermatitis has different approaches to it. So. Question about how often should a Demerol be used on the scalp? I personally use it when I was still in Hirigo. I was doing it almost daily, but I was doing very lightly, right? Because I just wanted to increase absorption of minoxidil. So. But again, there are different methods. Like if you, for example, want to have a bonding effect from microneedlings, and you need to do it less frequently. And the weight is minoxidil application as well. So it kind of depends on what kind of outcome you're looking for. So. Did you experience side effects from finasteride? No, I didn't. Has been good so far. So. Let's see. So, question about is it good to start with 10% minoxidil and topical solution in the beginning and then lower to 5%? Yes, that's one option, but I would say 10% minoxidil has much higher chance of side effects, and that can be a problem. So. You can still get awesome results with 5%. So I don't see a reason why one should step it up to 10%. So, all right, guys. Here is a link to schedule a call if you want to basically know more about my program. I will add it here. And thanks for attending today. And we speak next time. Have a nice one. Cheers.